Oh, yes, on Monday we did a pod. I don't know if you saw we dropped it in the or any of the clips, but it was I just wanted to do like a silly one, just kind of get back to it, see how I did back after my ordeal. But I wanted to have it lighthearted, and so we just kind of like we mentioned it, like the episode's called "I'm an Orphan Now" because I am an orphan now. But
Ay, no digas eso.
I am though. ¿Por qué no lo voy a decir si es cierto? Este. So it was just, it was Oscar and Maddie and me, and the reason I didn't want to go too into it is because they were like Oscar was there, like he knows the whole story. Maddie, I mean, knows most of the story also, so it's like, so I'm like, Itzel doesn't really know the story, so let's do an episode where we talk about this, and that way you can ask me all the questions, I can tell all the story, de principio a fin, you know, because I do feel like getting that out there, you know what I mean? So we'll see how it goes. Y te digo, pero pues un desorden because like the whole month, like living in and out of the hospital for that whole month was like, and then I was still recording stuff for the nonprofit.
Ujú.
So like most of my stuff is up at the little studio we have there in Idaho Falls, and I'm por un cable que no deja aquí. That's why I'm like, oh shit, now I can't use any of my other stuff. But luckily, it's funny. Me acaba de regalar este micrófono esta Maria for my birthday a couple months ago. And I hadn't used it, but it's like it plugs right into your computer. So the quality's not quite like the other stuff. And then like I can't do like the samples and the music and stuff. I can put it in later. I might, or I might not. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But that's why I was like, shit. But I wanted to get that out there. You know,
Yeah.
you down with that or what?
¿Qué qué?
Are you down with that?
Yeah.
Are you down to be part of a serious episode?
Yeah, I'm down. Let's
So what do you think? Where should we'll get started and on my story that I want to tell.
a ver,
Like I said, I want you to ask questions. I mean, let's start with that. You just ask me where you think what you want to know first or what.
am, de tu historia que te acaba de suceder.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's almost Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day by the time this comes out, by the way.
That makes me so sad.
Your Mother's Day?
No, your story.
That I'm an orphan now?
I don't even say it like that. That honestly makes me so sad. Because, like, I don't know. Obviously, bueno, al menos yo no he pensado, mucho en, cuando llegue ese tiempo, for my parents. So I can't imagine, what you're going through. Like, I don't know. It just, ah,
Yeah. It's rough. And I think the reason I'm coping fairly well is porque my mom never shied away of talking about that stuff. And she would always talk about what she wanted done when she would die and stuff. And we
oh,
and we
okay.
would joke about death and stuff like yeah, ves que hay gente que you say something about death and
Oh,
immediately
yeah.
they're like, oh, shut up, no, no hables de eso y hasta se persiguen y la chingada. My mom wasn't like that, so it does hurt, and it's like it's just unbelievable that she's not here anymore. Especially I've been living with her for the past 2 years. We had our routine of living together, and it's like it's just weird being in the house by myself. All last week, all my family was here. The house was full. All my brothers were here. My brother with his daughters were here. So everybody kept asking me like if I was okay last week. I'm like, I'm fine this week. If anything, we had some really fun moments last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, pero el domingo when my daughters go home and at that point everybody else has gone home, I'm like, I'm just gonna be here by myself. That's when it's gonna hit. If not Sunday night, Monday when I come home from work and nobody's here. Or like
Yeah.
nobody comes home, because she'd get home after me. Y ya en las tardes cuando se estaba a ver la tele o algo, and that's what it hits. Like I look at the couch, I'm like, she should be on the couch right now, like where she always was in the
Yeah.
evenings. Pero, pero por eso digo, sí me siento preparado. Like it hasn't been as bad, I think, as like some of my brothers are taking it a lot harder, I think. But it's just I'm able to cope. But I am extremely saddened, and like my whole life is just completely different and shattered right now. But because I was ready for it in a way, but like one of my brothers and I were talking about this the other day. We're like, We thought we had a good 15, 20 years left, you know?
Really?
Yeah, like her into her 80s, más o menos,
¿Cuántos años tenía tu mamá?
66.
She was young.
She'd barely turned 66 in February,
What day?
on the 9th of February. And the other day, my daughters were looking at the pictures on my phone from that day, and lo que dijo mi hija, she's like her birthday cake. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no, like we didn't think that was, no nos imaginamos that that was gonna be her last birthday cake.
Yeah.
And then my daughter's like, well, next year let's do a birthday cake for her anyway, so it wasn't her last birthday cake. I'm like, that's a good idea. Like, I'm down.
Yeah. Oh. So, ¿cuándo se enteraron?
That she died?
No, espérate.
I was like, I was right there with her. Uh,
No, que o sea, que de lo que tenía, o sea, she just,
mhm.
o sea, sí, ¿cuándo se enteraron?
Yeah, we'll rewind it to where it started, I guess. The In March, it was like March, the weekend of the 9th, por ahí. Este, todo normal, like that weekend, like we went grocery shopping on Friday. I had my daughters with me. My daughter asked her to if she could buy some, if she could throw in some bacon. She's like, yeah, like get your bacon, some sausage. Like Saturday, she made them this big breakfast.
Mhm.
Like we went to the mall that day, todo. Y el domingo empezó que se le caían las cosas. Like she kept dropping stuff out of her hands, like she couldn't grip them.
Yeah,
And so she started getting worried. She's like, I like según yo llevo algo y se me cae.
yeah,
We went and got some chicken. She got a French bread. And she had the French bread in her hand to put it on the table and dropped it on the floor. And my daughter was even like, Mama, ¿qué pasó? And then she grabbed a bottle of water, same, se le tiró. And my daughter was just like looking at her like, what the hell? And so that Sunday after my daughters left, she was like, no, mejor, take me to the hospital, take me to the ER, something's wrong. And so we go to the hospital and they tell her, they like start asking her questions. She tells them what's been going on. They're like, oh, what do you do for work? She's like, well, I work at a spud warehouse. Estoy sorteando papas todo el día. They're like, oh, a lot of people that do these jobs like that, the repetitive motion, you get carpal tunnel.
yeah,
And she's like, well, I don't think it's carpal tunnel because I've known people that get carpal tunnel and they complain that they're in pain. She's like, I don't feel any pain. She's like, I think it's brain related. Like somehow my brain, I think I'm grabbing stuff and I'm not. I think it's brain related. And they just kind of brushed her off. No, it's carpal tunnel. They gave her some fucking little wristband things and prescribed her some anti-inflammatory, sent her home. So she didn't go to work on Monday. She was just wasn't gonna go to work until it started getting better. So Monday she was fine. She was here all day. Like I had some stuff to do that week, but I canceled everything because she was at home. I'm like, I'll just stay home with her. Porque no está ahí sola. Not even thinking like in case something happens, just because I didn't like it sucks to be here all day, not doing anything, and then being alone all day.
yeah.
So Tuesday I got home. Um, she was watching. She would always watch. When she was here during the day, she would watch Family Feud.
Oh my God.
And so I'm sitting there playing, watching Family Feud with her, and we're like laughing. Like there was this question that was like, it was the what animal, what animal's bite would send you to the emergency room? And
Yeah,
the first lady, it was like at the end, and the first lady in the family was like a lion, and it was like, what the fuck? Like you encounter lions a lot or what? And so we were laughing about that. My mom's laughing and making jokes about it. Then the next lady said a tiger, and so everybody's like, what the hell? Like it's like snake or something.
yeah,
And so we were joking. And so I'm telling you this because it comes into play later. We're watching TV. We're joking about that. Ya que sacó ese programa, I showered. I got out. It was 5 o'clock. I'm like, at 6 o'clock, she always watched All in the Family. So I'm like, from 5 to 6, I'm gonna work on this video that I had to edit. I think for the other podcast. And I'm like, ya a las 6 me siento a ver el programa con ella. And so yeah, andaba alistando. I was taking some. I was putting some clothes in the dryer, and I started walking from the laundry room through the kitchen, and she was at the sink brushing her teeth. And I
mm-hmm,
remember she had this box of Ferrero Rochers that she had just bought. And
mm-hmm,
I walked right next to her. She was already having this thing, como un ataque, and I didn't even realize it. I'm just standing next to her. I'm like, "Te voy a robar unos chocolates." And then like I started walking away, and I heard her scream. I thought it was the faucet. La llave en la cocina, like if you leave it a certain way, like it makes this weird screechy sound,
Yeah.
you know, because it's old houses. And le digo, esa llave ahora hace un ruido muy diferente, ¿no? And that's when I realized it was her. And so I
Hmm.
run over to her, and her face is just glitching, like not just twitching, like glitching here, glitching there. And she's like, she can't control it. And she looks at me, and I'm like, shit. I'm like, ¿qué hago? ¿Qué hago? I'm like, no, vámonos, vámonos. I'm like, at least she didn't fall over, you know? So, and she looked at me, and she was able to get out a few words. She dijo, ahora sí ya valió madre. And I'm like, no, let's go, let's go. And so we walk out. I like walk her out of the house. She was able to walk out. Once we got out, she had trouble going down the steps. So nomás le dije, I'm like, just déjate caer, yo te agarro. And then she did that. We walked all the way to my car. And like, I thought she was gonna be able to lift herself up. She couldn't. So I just had to like, throw her in. Y es lo que luego dijo, ya ni me acuerdo cómo salimos de la casa. Like, nomás me acuerdo que ya cuando acordé me estabas echando como costal a tu carro. And I'm like, yeah, well, and like I couldn't, like she couldn't control her arms and stuff. So I tried to put a sweater on her, but I couldn't. So I just grabbed a blanket off the couch where she had been watching TV. Yeah, like I called 911 and I was like, I'm pretty sure my mom's having a stroke. She's in my car now. Is it best for me to go to the hospital or should we wait for an ambulance in case you guys need to treat her immediately? And they're like, if she's in the car, just drive. And pues me fui en chinga. And so like on the way to the hospital, I called Ermac and I was like, hey, we really it was 5 o'clock, like I said, so I'm like, we're hitting this really bad rush hour through Sunnyside. I'm like, but we're on our way. I'm pretty sure my mom's having a stroke. So if you could have someone just meet us outside with like a wheelchair, just so we can get going super fast. What's your name? Yeah.
My
And
God.
so what's a good phone number for you? And what's your I'm like, hey, like, I'm just like at this point I'm already like a block away. Like what the fuck's the point of calling you? And the guy's like, well, to tell you the truth, I'm not actually at Ermac. We're like a call center for them. And I'm like, ah, vale madre pues. And I just hung up. And so pull up right up to the front at the emergency room. I get off and there's nobody at the desk, no nurses,
No.
no nadie que me atienda. So I just grab a wheelchair again, just con mis propias fuerzas, get her out of the car. And I go in y le digo, y después le dice a mi mamá, I'm like, no sé chiflar. So I just walked in and go, hey, hey, fucking yelling. And they come out, they're like, what's wrong? I'm like, no ven. I have this lady in the wheelchair spazzing out, and they ask me what's wrong. I'm like, I think she's having a stroke, but I don't know. That's why we came. Y pues ya nos meten en chinga. And they're like, yeah, it looks like it might be a stroke. They take her into the CT, into the CAT scan, and ya cuando salió eso, they're like, it's not a stroke. There's no bleeding. It's actually a seizure that was caused by something that's in there. We see a mass in there. We're not sure what it is exactly. We'll have to do an MRI to see what it is. But they gave her medicine to like take it to calm down the seizure and stuff. And
Hmm.
so and so at that point, finally, I called my brother that lives here in Idaho Falls. He goes, yeah, you go and they're telling us and they're going to send her to the MRI. And so we're like, I don't even think it was that night. I think maybe it was like the next morning. They just told us they're like, okay, the scan shows that it is a tumor. It's on the right side of her brain. Has she been taking aspirin for her heart condition? I'm like, yeah, she takes the baby aspirin. They're like, okay, so we'll have to wait a few days. Any other inflammatories? I'm like, she had barely started the anti-inflammatories for the carpal tunnel.
Mm.
They're like, so we'll need to wait a few days for all that to get out of her system because we can't do surgery, a craniotomy on her, with blood thinners because she might bleed out. So that was on a Tuesday that we went in. That's so they scheduled the surgery for that Saturday. And so the whole time before the surgery, she was okay. Like we could get her up. Like we stopped calling the nurses. We would just help her up ourselves to go to the bathroom and stuff. And we would like help her walk. She was still kind of walking. She needed a lot of assistance, pero tenía fuerzas. Este, they have the thing so that she didn't have to have what's that thing they put in for your urine? You know what I mean? Where they hook it in all the way inside you. They don't have to do that anymore because they invented this thing called a Wick. It's just this long banana looking thing, like a little sponge. You put it between your legs and it suctions. And that way, if you're sleeping or even if you're awake, you just pee and the pee gets suctioned out. But at least you don't
Oh,
have.
like the tea bag.
What's
The
that?
it's like ay, ¿cómo se llama? Sí, no, ya sé de qué hablas.
Yeah, yeah, but lo bueno es que ya ves que la otra they put straight into your pee vein you
Yeah,
thing, you know.
that shit
So
hurts. Yeah.
yeah, until you're into your urinary tract, and so I'm like, at least you don't have to do that. Like me and my brother got really good at putting that on her. Like we immediately started helping around a lot. Like everybody was like, do you guys want to step out while we do this and stuff? We're like, at this point, like we're not embarrassed at seeing what we have to see as long as we can help. And so, like I said, we would help her to the bathroom. We would help put those on. Yes, I remember on that Friday night before surgery, because my mom's had plenty of surgeries throughout her life.
Really?
And every time she went in for anything, even if it was just like gallbladder or like when it was her heart, more like a little more serious things and stuff like that. Whoever she was with, whoever one of us was she was with, she would always say, like, in case I don't come out the other side, cuídense mucho entre ustedes.
Mm.
This and this, like money matters, different things. And so she did the same thing. She just, in case I don't come out the other side. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, my brother had taken some bear claws that morning. And then she was like, se me antojan unos bear claws. And she told my brother to take some more. And she's like, maybe some oatmeal cream pies. And so she had up to midnight until she had to stop eating. So that night, like my brother showed up with a bunch of like pastries like that, and we had a fun little party, all three of us there in her hospital room. And we're just, um, and I think like in our mind it was that is like just in case she doesn't come out, like we at least had like a nice little moment together.
Yeah.
And so the surgeon was like, I'll come tomorrow morning about 6:30 and take her in, and surgery will be done about noon. We're like, okay. And he showed up a little late, like at 7, and but he was done by like 11. And so they had us in the waiting room for the intensive care unit, me and my brother. And oh yeah, we'll tell you when you can come back up to the room. We just gotta get her settled. And it was taking forever. And finally my brother just like stood up and barged in. Y hasta como que se enojaron, but I'm like, I get it. Like, well, I remember I was like starting to doze off, and then I saw him like arguing with one of the nurses, so I just ran after him. Y ya nos dejaron meter y pues sí, había salido y todo bien. The day of her surgery,
Hmm.
she was super alert. She was fine. She was feeling good. Like her speech wasn't slurred anymore.
Hmm.
And so we're like, this is looking really good. The next day, her speech started getting slurred. She couldn't move her left arm at all, her left leg barely. And
Oh.
so they're like, but that's normal. That's part of the swelling from the surgery. It was on the
Mm-hmm.
right side, so her left side's affected. Y ya, después de eso, duramos varios días in the ICU. After that, we got sent up to the rehabilitation.
Hmm.
And so, and of course, after the surgery, our big question was like, what was it? Was it a benign tumor? Was it cancer? What was it? And they're like, well, we sent it to the lab. It's going to get biopsied. They run a number of tests to make sure that when they know what it is, it's like sure that they know what it is. And I'm like, okay. So she's in the rehab a couple days. By that time, she finally said to tell our, because she initially just told us not to tell our brothers that live far away. She's like, no, ¿para qué los preocupan? Like the day of the surgery, she's like, if there's complications, tell them. But if not, we'll wait, and that way we'll find out. Like, and as soon as I told him, like every day, all day, every day, they both kept texting me and calling me, and she's like, por eso no les quería decir, because you don't have any new news to tell them, but they keep asking you stuff, and
Hmm.
you keep telling them, you'll tell them new stuff when you know new stuff, but they don't, they're still gonna ask. And they're just all worried, and there's nothing they can do because they're far away. And but after that, at that point, she's like, "Yeah, pues ya avisarles," and so I did. And so both of them are, sure enough worried, and like, so did they tell you guys what it is, what it is, what is it? Have they said anything? And so then, like, finally, the day came when they told I got. Nos acomodamos de que I go to work at 6 in the morning, so I would stay the night there. Then at 5 a.m., my brother would show up, and I would go to work. And then I would show up in the afternoon after work, like 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon, depending if I had stuff to do after work. Y ya luego se iba él y así. Así estábamos muchas semanas. And that's why, like, the first week I just missed a ton of work, but then it was like, ya que vimos que iba para largo, like, it's going to be a long while that you're going to be in the rehab and stuff. She's like, no, pues, you can't lose your job over this. Like, you guys got to start going to work again. And so it was rough, even that at that point, going to work knowing that she was in the hospital. But I got I got there after work that day, and like as soon as I got off the elevator, the nurse, this really nice nurse of hers, um, she just told me, she's like, "Did they tell you anything yet?" I was like, what happened? And so like as soon as she said that, like I knew. I'm like, well, what? And she's like, well, the oncologist was just in there talking with them, and she's like, I told your brother if he needed to call you. And I'm like, I'm sure he didn't call me because he knew I was on my way anyway. Like, si me avisaban temprano, all that was going to do was worry me all day at work.
Yeah.
So, she's like, yeah, your brother's taking it really hard. Like, he's been crying a lot. And like, your mom's taking it really hard. I'm like, okay. Well, thanks for letting me know before I go in there all joyful and they're having a moment. So I go in there, and my brother recorded the conversation with the oncologist. Yeah, ahí es cuando I saw the video, and that's when he explained, like, you're lucky it wasn't actually brain cancer, because brain cancer is, pretty much, a ton more difficult to treat than a lymphoma, which is what you have. The lymphoma starts in the lymph nodes, travels to the brain, and he's like, they took 80% of the tumor out. The 20% they couldn't get is still in there, and it is lymphoma cancer. Chemotherapy for sure will take care of it. You just have to work more at rehab to get strong enough to withstand chemo. At this point, you're not strong enough. You just have to keep working here at the rehab, try to learn how to walk again, and you should be able to do chemo at that point, because it was supposed to be, I believe, what, 3 weeks in the rehab at least, and that's what she ended up doing. Pero no, o sea, that was the plan. Then after that, they would schedule the chemo. Pero se llegó unos días que they tried changing her anti-seizure medication to something in the IV. They did it once and it didn't sit well with her. She threw up. She just got weak. She lost like a whole day of therapy because she couldn't get up.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, well, that's one day lost. And then they did it again at night. It happened again. And I'm like, why do you guys keep doing this? We saw it doesn't work. Like, let's not do this medication anymore. What the hell? And they're like, yeah, 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 we won't do that anymore. The next day I come back and they're like, it happened again. They did it again. I'm like, what the fuck?
Mhm.
So at this point, she's lost already 2 days of rehab. She's gotten super weak because of this medication. And I'm like, they're like, once it wears off, she'll be back to where she was and she'll be able to do rehab too again. But at that point, like that next day, they were like, I get there and they're like, oh yeah, well, they think that it's that she's kind of plateaued with the rehab, and she might benefit more if she goes home, and she might get stronger at home. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, how? Like, we don't have equipment at home. Like, what's she gonna do at home? Just sit.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to, but it was two against one. My mom was ready to come home. My brother was like, yeah, well, it's worth a try. And I'm like, she didn't plateau. She hasn't done anything the last 2 days because it's fucking medication.
Yeah.
But it was, like I said, it's 2 to 1. I'm like, all right, well. So we came home that Wednesday, freaking giving us a ton of instructions. And the whole time we were in the hospital, even from the very beginning, like everybody kept asking me and my brother, like what did she do at home? Like, did she use a walker at home? It's like, no. Like, what the hell? And like, what's her life? I'm like, she's independent. She goes to work every day. She works longer hours than I do. And they'd be like, so you're living with her? And I'd be like, yeah. They're like, so you're living with her to like help her out? And I'm like, no. I'm like, if anything, I'm living her to help me out. So I'm like, I pay rent. I'm like, she's independent. She does her thing. She drives herself to work every day. I'm like, she pays her own bills and stuff. And then with the steroids, they were giving her steroids to drop the inflammation in her brain, and that made her blood sugar spike up. So they started giving her insulin. And so then like the same thing, like, so how much insulin does she take at home? It's like none. So she's how long has she been diabetic? She's not. Like she's doing this because of the shit you're giving her. Like I'm hoping that once we stop all that stuff, she can get back to normal. And so like when we got sent home, I had to learn how to check her blood. I hate all the needle stuff and poking people and shit.
Mhm.
Pero pues ni modo. I learned how to do that. I would give her insulin like during meals if she needed it. But after a few days, like we stopped, like we weaned her off the steroids, so we were able to like I would check her blood, and usually I wouldn't need to give her the insulin. And so I'm like, see, she's back to normal. But you know, physical therapy, occupational therapy, a nurse, they would come to the house a couple times a week. But honestly, I don't think it was enough. They would come here según por una hora, but they would do like one little thing, be like, well, you seem like you're pretty tired, and then they would leave, and I'm like, fuck, man.
Oh my God.
I'm like, we're not getting anything done here. Like I kept saying, like, I don't like, should we call, see if we can get back admitted back into the hospital? Like, this just is not working out, I don't think.
Yeah.
So we were home for 2 weeks. And so at that point, like when we were still in the hospital, my brother came with his family just kind of on a whim because my nieces were on spring break. And so se le metió la loquera. He's like, oh yeah, we'll go. Because he had already planned to come 1 week and he was taking the week off work and he was going to fly here just by himself. He's like, flights are expensive, like for everybody.
Ujú.
He's like, pero
¿Dónde vive?
en Minnesota.
Ay, chingado.
So se les alocó de venir for that week that the girls didn't have school. So he still had to work like remotely, but he just drove. They just drove here. They got here. They left like on a like Saturday morning. They got here on Sunday evening.
Ujú,
Y se quedaron toda la semana, and then they left. Then that week they weren't here, but then the next week es cuando vino el solo, and by that point we were already home. So he was here, and like he helped us more with like housework, like washing the dishes and stuff like that. Because me and my brother, we were the ones lifting her up out of the chair into the bed, from the bed to the chair, from the chair to the bathroom, everything. And the first few days it was pretty easy. We lifted her, but it was mostly her doing the lifting. We just kind of helped her.
ujú.
By the last couple of days, like there was one day like at the end where I could not lift her by myself. Y luego un día que de plano no pudo llegar a la cama and I could not get her up and she could not help me. And it was at night I was trying to put her to sleep, and so she was on the floor. I ended up just nomás la cobijé bien, and I'm like, we're sleeping on the floor tonight. And en la mañana cuando llegue mi hermano, will help you up. And so entre yo y mi hermano, we were able to lift her up in the morning. And and then like the next week we had doctor appointments finally, and we went to see her doctor in Rigby, and he was like, well, good thing you're off of the steroids. I'm like, she seems really low. Like you guys gave her Prozac. I'm thinking maybe try more Prozac, see if it gives her a little bit more energy. He's like, yeah, he raised the dose on that, changed a few things, and the same thing. He's like, I told he saw the whole thing with the insulin. He's like, yeah, let's get her off insulin. She's not diabetic. We'll put her on the other one that she was taking to control that because she was like pre-diabetic. He's like, that way you don't have to poke her anymore. Just put her back on the old medicine. And so we'd barely set all that up. And that week we had gotten calls from like the oncologist and radiology, and like we were doing all these like the habíamos ido with the neurosurgeon. He ordered another MRI. Like, can we just go across the street and do it over at Ermac? He's like, no, well, they have to call you and schedule it. I'm like, all right. And so they hadn't called me. We were waiting on it, but each day she was just worse and sleeping all day. Like I would try to get her up to do some exercise that they taught me to do with her, like just even on the couch and stuff. And she just was asleep all day and didn't want to do anything. And so just kind of to recap on the whole hospital stay, everyone was like really helpful in the hospital for the most part. I mean, you're always gonna get one or two here que son medio culeros, you know. But for the most part, I feel like a lot of the nurses and like all the therapists and stuff really do care about people. And like every young nurse that helped her, I fell in love with, obviously. Pero I'm like, just because they're so kind and they're attractive, and it's like,
Oh
damn,
my
man.
gosh.
So I love all of them, and I'm still in love with a couple of them, but they're just really nice people, and and you get to know them, and they start asking you questions about your life, and they get to know you, you just start feeling like these real personal bonds. You're going through like these traumatic events and times. It's kind of like, I mean, have you ever been arrested or anything like that?
No, I'm a good citizen. Never been arrested.
When you go to jail, you make like friends that like you feel like they're your best friends.
Mhm.
But it's the whole thing. It's like a traumatic event. You're there. It's like a trauma bond.
Yeah.
And I felt the exact same kind of relationship with like all the nurses, all the staff. And my mom did too. And I remember at first like they would always like the first days when her speech was really slurred, she sounded like she was drunk a lot of the times. And so they would ask her questions and she would try to answer, and then they would look at me. They would assume que no sabía inglés. They were like, so they would look at me like, what is she saying? And I was like, she's telling you in English. Like her speech is slurred enough to even if she told me in Spanish, I still don't know what the hell she said. Like,
Wait,
pero
¿tu mamá
con,
habla inglés?
yeah.
¿Oh,
So
sí?
con el tiempo se fue mejorando the slurred speech. The whole time she was there, she was in great spirits. Like the all the nurses and all the everybody would always comment that they would love going to into her room because she would greet them with a smile, even if her even if she was in pain, even if whatever, she would always smile. She was always making jokes with them. I remember there was a doctor in there. He went in there and he's like, was like, how do you say your name? Rocio? And she's like, yeah, yeah. She's like, good job. A lot of people say like Rocco or Rokio. And he's like, I was like, and then he was like, I don't know why they do that. And she's like, I know. She's like, in English, if the C is before the I, it makes an S sound. And he's like, yeah, I know that. My name's Dr. Macy with a C.
Mm.
And so he's like, so same thing. Like I've had people call me Dr. Makey, but it's Macy. And he's like, it's stupid. And so that was like their little banter before. Yeah, hicieron lo que iban a hacer with the doctor when he was leaving. My mom was like, "Oh, thank you, Dr. Makey," and he just laughed. And just little jokes like that like they started to realize, okay, she's knows a lot of English. One of the nurses was like, "Oh, wow, your English is really good." And I told her I was like, "Well, she's been in this country longer than you have." Because the nurse is like in her 20s. My mom's been here for 30 something years. It's like, colmo que no supiera. O sea,
Hay unos que han estado aquí por mucho tiempo y no saben inglés.
you
I
know
run
what?
across this
You know
all the
what it is? It's because they come to places like Idaho or places donde siempre ha habido ayuda, gente que te traduzca, like even at the stores and stuff. And my parents moved to Montana in the 80s, so nobody was there to help them. They had to learn. They couldn't go to a store and they're not gonna have they didn't have some young Mexican kid that was working there that could tell them explain stuff to them. They had to learn. She learned a lot of her English in the hospital. Like anytime she was in the hospital, like she would try to figure out. And hospital talk, I think, is easy porque pues a lot of it is like Latin rooted. Así que
Mhm.
agarras mucho, like you can kind of figure out what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in the rehab, they tell you they actually encourage visitors. The rooms are a lot bigger on the sixth floor. It's almost like it feels more like a hotel than a hospital. You're not wired up the whole time because in the other hospital beds, you're monitored the whole time, your heart, yeah, te van y te chequean, but you're not hooked up to anything. You're pretty free.
Oh,
And so, and so, they were like, they encourage visitors. That's why the rooms are so big. There's like three, four chairs in every room. She had, a handful of visitors pretty much almost every day, you
oh,
know, and they would comment on like the variety of people that visited her. Like old ladies that are super religious, cholos fracasados, like in white people, like and like all sorts of friends that she had, her coworkers, everybody, just a myriad of different people that would visit her, and they thought it was cool. They're like, and that's what they would always tell her. You have to try your hardest. There's all these people that love you and care about you. You have to like come
Yeah.
through for them. Y sí le daba muchos ánimos. And even when they weren't there, me and her would watch TV. We would read books, and that was the thing. That was the whole thing with Family Feud was that when I first brought her into the emergency room, and they asked me like, "Well, how long has this been going on?" I'm like, 20 minutes, 30 minutes since from whatever it took me to get here. They're like, but was she showing any symptoms? Was she like, was her speech bad? Or is she not making sense? I'm like, she was perfectly fine. She was able to watch TV and interact with what was going on. She was perfectly fine. She was still all there. It happened like that. And then in the rehab, también mirábamos tele. We were reading a book together. Like I would read it to her and we would talk about it and stuff. Y, and she would converse with the people that would go visit her. And then by the time, that's why it was so frustrating that when we were home, she couldn't stay awake long. I'm like, you're not alert like you were. Like before you were living like quote unquote normal, I think, because from the time you got up to the time it was bedtime, you were alert. You kind of had your routine. We would go to they have like a dining area. We would go there to eat so we weren't stuck in the room all day. And like when my nieces came, we would plan to like we would get something to eat and we would all eat together at one of the tables at the rehab.
Yeah.
And so by the time we're home, like it's none of that. Like what no estamos conviviendo nada con ella. She's just asleep all day. We'd wake her up to give her meds or we'd wake her up to try to do an exercise. And she just did not have the energy for it. And so we're here at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, her occupational therapist came through and he started asking like about her energy levels and stuff. And I told him that. Then he said, you know what? It might be a yeah, at this point ya habíamos ido a ver a su doctor and her and the surgeon. And we told them like it worries us that her energy levels are so low. And they didn't, neither of them even guessed what the occupational therapist did. He was like, it might be a UTI. And I was like, oh, not about that. And then my mom jumps in and she was like, well, it doesn't hurt when I pee. And he says, well, that's why, like at this point, like when people are this messed up, a lot of times the UTI doesn't hurt when you pee. It just drains your energy completely. And he's like, when's your nurse coming? And I was like, she's coming tomorrow. And he's like, tell her to bring a test and she can run a pee test and see if it's a UTI. That way we can start getting it treated. I'm like, okay. So then when she called to confirm that she was coming, I told her that. She's like, yeah, let's do it. And so that was like on a Thursday when that guy came. She was coming on a Friday. And so the next part of it, that was my payday. Fui, cambié mi cheque. I got some food for me and my brother and her. And I come home and I round the corner in front of the house. And we live right behind the fire department. So a lot of times you will see fire trucks or ambulances here. They're servicing them, or they're like a veces tiran el agua from the fire hydrant for whatever reason. And they get in the way a lot sometimes in our driveway. And I saw the ambulance. I'm like, God damn it, these fucking guys. But then I realized the lights were on. And so I'm just like, fuck. And so I have to park like in front of the next property. I was gonna say neighbors, but there's no neighbors there anymore. And I walk and so I just get out and they're putting her onto the stretcher. And so I don't get much info hasta que pues ya se van. They're like, yeah, let's go into Ermac. Like, you guys drive up there and you can find her. And ya luego me dijo mi hermano que, the nurse was coming like 1 in the afternoon. And so he woke her up and everything and she wanted to go to the bathroom. He said, so I came and I put her in the bathroom. That's when the door, the knock on the door, it was the nurse. He's like, so I left her in the bathroom, go open the door. We come back to the bathroom and she's passed out on the toilet. And so the nurse is like, yeah, let's just call an ambulance. And so I'm like, obviously we're going to be in there again. Who knows for how long?
Mhm.
Traje comida para los tres. I was like, let's eat before we go. Like, as much as it hurts, I know that as soon as we go, we're not going to think of eating. Let's eat before we follow the ambulance. And so we did. And so we're both talking about, like, it's weird, like, how low her energy is. Like, it's like I said, and finish eating. My brother leaves. And I'm like, just go without me. They go, I mean, I just got home from work. Let me shower up and pack a few things so that I can stay with her at night. He's like, okay. And so we get there and they're saying, they scanned her again. And they're saying, we're pretty sure it is a UTI. We're pretty sure the infection is starting to get into her blood. It's probably sepsis. They never confirmed that it was sepsis, but it was probably sepsis. She was shaking, super weak, and so I'm there at night, and I spend the night with her again in the hospital. Then in the morning, the doctor came in, and she was like, they scanned her brain again, and the swelling has gone down where they did the surgery, but there's swelling in other parts of the brain. The cancer has progressed a lot faster than they thought it would.
Mm.
And she starts talking about making a decision, and I stopped her, and I was like, at that point, that Friday when we went back to the hospital, I did tell my brother that lives in Pittsburgh. I told both of them. And my brother that lives in Pittsburgh was going to come this next week. He was going to come here for the week of the 10th through whatever that week is. And he's like, mejor voy ahorita. I was like, yeah, if you can, yeah, probably. And so he's already on his way that Saturday morning. Like he'd already told me he was on en route, in different flights and stuff. And
Mhm.
so the so when the doctor starts telling me, something about a decision, I'm like, stop. I was like, my brother's almost here. My brother that lives here, I'll call him to come in and we'll call my other brother on the phone. Sounds like this, you're talking about a decision. That's something what I want all four of us to be around. I'm not going to make any decision by myself. And my mom was still conscious enough to where she was part of the decision also. And so once everybody was there, and I mean, when my brother got there, he immediately he just took an Uber straight from the airport. And as soon as he walked in, he just starts bawling. He just breaks down. And so we tell the doctor, okay, we're all here. And she starts telling us, it's progressed way too much. Both oncologists and the neurosurgeon both said that there's nothing life saving options that they can offer at this point. So the choice to be made was we can treat the infection and hopefully get rid of the sepsis so she can go home and spend her last days or moments at home. Pretty much, we can treat this so she can go home and die at home,
Oh.
or we can stop treating everything and just call it. And we knew what my mom was going to want, so we said, I think we're just going to call it. And so she left us. We had our moment. We all cried and we hugged, held each other. And, you never think you're going to like, because in my life, we were brought up not like, I hear that a lot, especially like Mexicans, like, que nunca se decían que se querían, like, or your parents never told you. Like, we were brought up pretty good by my mom. My dad never told us he loved us, and it's not because he was Mexican, it's because he didn't love us.
What is your dad still alive?
No, he died a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
That I'm telling you, I'm an orphan. You keep saying
Oh,
that.
like yeah, you said you're an orphan, but like, como I don't know really much about your dad. Like,
Yeah. Nobody cared when he died because he stopped talking to us 10 years before he died.
oh, okay. Did
When
he
they
have
did,
another family?
Yeah, I guess at the end. He got married two more times, or at least hooked
What?
up with someone two more times after my mom. They got divorced when I was 25. When they rounded us up to tell us that they were getting divorced, one by one, he told us why he didn't love us, why we each one of us disappointed him. And
What?
and if you meet all four of my brothers, like we're all very different path-wise. Like we all have kind of a similar sense of humor. We all do a lot things similar, but our lives are very different. Y siempre le decía yo a mi mamá, I'm like, I wish that even if he wasn't proud of me, that he was proud of one of my brothers for one of their attributes, you know?
Mhm.
But it's like, a mí como por ejemplo, like a los que estudiaron se le hacía que eran una babosada, like wasted their time in college. But then those of us that didn't go to college, he was like ashamed that we didn't go to college. Like, no se le daba gusto al pendejo, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, when he stopped talking to us and like that was my mourning time for him. Like I cried back then and stuff. So by the
Mhm.
time he died 10 years later, like my crying was done. Like I didn't feel anything. Like it did not affect my life whatsoever that he had died. He died in November, October. He died 2 days before my daughter was born. And in October, he saw me and my ex-wife. We were at the dollar store,
Oh,
and
he
they
lived in
were,
oh,
yeah. Well, he lived. His ex-wife still. His widow lives right down the street from us here.
what?
Because they bought this house, and then they bought that other house. I lived in that house for a little bit with them. When I started going to college, I moved back. Yes, but then I moved out. But then they got the divorce, so and they were renting this house for a couple of years. But then when they got the divorce, my mom got this house, and rightfully so. I mean, she helped. If it wasn't for her, they would have never even gotten this house.
Mhm.
So, so she got this house, and so yeah. I mean, he saw us like a month before he died, and he saw that my ex-wife was very pregnant. Y aún así no nos habló. And so a month later, when he died, my ex, that's what she told me. She's like, eso era el destino dándole una oportunidad más para hablarte, and he didn't take it. And I'm like, so where was I in our story where we make the decision? And yeah, and that's what I was talking about. We were hugging, we were crying. So we weren't brought up like bien machotes así de que to not show emotions.
Yeah.
And I remember like when our parents would fight or like when my older brother went to prison and stuff, there were moments like from childhood until like adolescence where I have cried in my brother's arms and they've cried in mine and stuff. But you don't think that's ever gonna happen again when you're an adult,
Mhm.
when you're all well into your 30s and 40s. But it happens, man, and you just immediately feel like a little kid again, like just crying with them. And I don't know, man, like it's weird because like it feels good
Mhm.
in the most terrible way possible to feel their hot tears on your shoulder, to feel like I felt like I saw that all three of them were taking it so hard.
Mhm.
So I felt like I had, and I still do feel like I have to step up and I'll have time to deal with the emotions later. Because right now, like, I feel like I'm the most level-headed out of all four of us.
Yeah.
Let them have their emotional time right now. And my older brother left. He said, I can't, I can't make it. I cannot take being here when she's gone. Let me know if anything changes or if it happens or if anything happens. Pero no puedo estar aquí. And I said, okay, I understand. And then so he left. And then when my younger brother stepped out to do something, make a phone call, whatever, I was in the room with my mom alone. And so I sat down and next to her, just close to her face, and I asked her like, ¿Sí entendiste? Did you understand what just happened? She nodded.
Um,
And she said, and I said, that no quieres que te llamen un padre o algo because everybody keeps talking about that. And she said, no, nada de eso. Nada de eso existe. Los padres no ayudan en nada y no existe nada de eso. I said, okay. Just want to make sure. And I said, ¿todavía sigues con la idea de que cuando te mueras you don't want anybody out of service, you just want us around? Because that's what she would always say. Like, te digo, she would talk about that stuff, even if she was in complete health. Just, when I die, no service, just you guys and your daughters and your families. And she said, yeah, nomás ustedes. So I said, okay. And so we go ahead and tell the nurses, like, yeah, we decided to do that. What's next? They said, well, we have to switch the care from the hospital to the hospice. And for legality, like we can't quote unquote unplug her. That has to
yeah.
be done by hospice. They're going to give her comfort medications, which is just like, they just get you really high so that you're not suffering. But it takes forever. Like, it took forever for them to switch over. Like, it was getting on my nerves. Like, I'm sorry it's taking so long, guys. Like, it's the computers are acting up. And I'm like, motherfuckers, it's 2025. Like, yo se las creía eso when we worked at Center Partners in, 20 years ago. Like, oh, the computer, sorry, the computer. I was just about to do I have to restart the computer. I'm so sorry. But remember, I mean, when we started at working there, at least when I did, we still have the big ass monitors.
Yeah.
This stuff didn't exist. Zoom didn't exist. You're telling me my $700 laptop is a lot better than your, millions of dollars computer system? It's fucking bullshit me, hospital. Fucking motherfuckers, man. And so starts getting late. I went in the afternoon. I told my ex-wife what was happening, and I didn't have my girls that weekend, but I said I'm gonna go tell my daughter if she wants to come see grandma one last time, her grandmother one last time, or she can choose it. She's old enough to make a decision like that. And so I go over there and I tell her what happens. We have a good cry together. And I said, ¿quieres venir a verla? She said, no.
Oh,
Dice, I don't want to remember her. I don't even want to have that image of her. I just want to remember her how she always was. And I said, I really understand that. But I need you to understand that if you don't go right now, you're probably never going to see her again.
oh,
And she said, yeah, that's fine. And so I went back to the hospital. By the time I got here, my younger brother's like, she's starting to feel it. Like, she's starting to get restless, she's starting to feel more pain. They pumped her with so much fluid that her arms and legs were just swollen. Le dolía, like she couldn't move her wrists. It would hurt. She was just ballooned up. And so a lot of people were able to call her and tell her goodbye. My brother that lives in Minnesota was able to call her and tell her goodbye.
um,
His wife, he was picking up his oldest daughter. His wife and their youngest daughter were at the house and they asked me, I'm like, yeah, call me. That's fine. So, my sister-in-law and the youngest one were able to say goodbye to her. The oldest one was the same as my daughter. She just did not want to. She's like, no, like I don't need that memory of
yeah.
her agonizing. And a lot of people did. A cousin of mine that lives in Boise, yes, she'd already come visit, and she purchased one of those chairs, one of those couches that like stand you up, and
Mhm.
that had barely arrived at the house like a day before, and so She just loved my mom a lot. And it's funny because all these people, all these cousins of mine that really cared for her y le siguen diciendo tía, they were not her biological nephews and nieces.
Mm-hmm.
Ellos eran del lado de mi papá.
Um,
But she said, like, I remember she was telling us, because there's nine of them. And she was like, I always grew up thinking I was neglected. And she's like, but then, like, now that I'm an adult, I realized there was nine of us. Like, we were all neglected. She's like, and your mom saw me when nobody else did. She helped me when nobody else did.
hmm.
And so she was already on her way, but she's like, she called her and said her goodbye. 'Cause she's like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And I said, yeah, I don't think you are. So she called her. Her brother called her from California.
Hmm.
Su hermana desde Mexico. Like, a lot of people got to say their goodbyes. And she was still with us enough to where she wasn't having like big, meaningful conversations, but she was saying goodbye. She was telling people that she loved them
Um,
a gritos, because at that point, that's how she could get her speech out, was just by yelling in pain. And so one of her friends, and bless her heart was in a good place, but me desesperó un chingo porque llegó and I already have her brother, I already have her sister, I already have another friend of hers. I have all these people telling me, are you going to call a priest? Llámale un padre, es que le tienes que llamar un padre para que le den. And so this friend of hers comes in, she's like, no le vas a llamar un padre. Y le dije, no, ella no quiere. And so
yeah.
she gets in her face, like in her face. My mom's like agonizing. Like, ¿no quieres un padre? ¿Quieres un padre? ¿Que le llamemos a un padre? And my mom's like, but she kept, until she got my mom to like say yes. She's like, yeah, sí, es que sí quiero un padre, que sí quiero un padre. And so Maria was there. I forgot to mention that part. She showed up with food for us,
It's so sweet.
and she saw what was going on, so she stuck around, and she was there at that point. She's like, I'll go find a priest. And I don't know where she went. I think maybe she went to the church. I think that it was Saturday night, so I know they have masses and stuff.
Yeah.
And so she's gone, and she texts me. She's like, "Hey, they're not finding a priest right now. They might send you a deacon." Yo le dije, and I text her. I'm like, "Si me mandan al Álvaro, I'm gonna tell him to go to hell. 'Cause I don't like that guy, and my mom doesn't like him either."
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was like, "I gotta go, okay, because it's fucking shit out." And then she keeps saying like, "No, but they're not finding him," and I guess like this, she just really told me this the other day, that I guess like the priest was eventually got a hold of her after the fact, and he was like, well, did she ask for it? Because a lot of times when they call us last minute, it's because other people want it, and the person that was in there didn't even ask. She's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's what it is. And so that's why I texted her. I was like, just come back. I was like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm not worried about it. And
Yeah.
she comes back, she just asks the nurses, like, is there like a chaplain here at the hospital or something? They're like, oh, there should be. But she just asked. She didn't like say it was top priority. So she's like, at this point, she's in pain, starts screaming, and so I walk out, fairly cool headed, and I tell the nurses, I was like, hey, is there anything you guys can give her for pain? Like, I know you haven't switched over to the hospice yet. There's got to be something you guys can give her. And she's in pain. And the nurse, he looks up at me and he says, yeah, yeah, we'll see what we can do. We're still trying to get a hold of the chaplain. And I'm like, what? Like I'm screaming at them at this point. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like nobody fucking asked for that. And she's like, well, no, they said that she wanted one. I was like, no, her friend wanted one. I was like, what the hell is the chaplain gonna do? What's a priest gonna do? Is the priest gonna come and relieve her pain? No, fucking give her something. And so they get in there and give her some morphine. And shortly after that, they said, okay, finally we were able to switch her to hospice care. So we'll start switching her over to the meds. And this whole time, she's asking me to take the oxygen off of her face. She's like, ya quítame esto.
Oh,
Like, and she kept saying, "Ya me quiero ir, ya me quiero ir." She was yelling, and I would just hold her, le acariciaba su cabeza y le decía, "I can't, no puedo." I'm like, si yo hago eso, me van a echar a la cárcel. We just gotta be patient and be strong. I'm sorry, and but they finally did, and
sorry. I cannot.
And so I'm with her. My younger brother's there with us. Maria's in the room. Um, and I'm holding her head, acariciando su cara the whole time. And so you immediately, once they took the stuff off, you immediately start. It's funny because you have like in la tele on movies and TV shows, it's the beep beep beep, and then the beep, the flat line. The way this works, they unplug all the stuff, but the screen's still on it. It goes black and white. You don't have like it was a red, a green, and a blue. Now it was just all black and white. But it's showing you the heart rate, and the heart rate's starting to get slower, and then like it stops, and like then the screen says like screenshot saved or snapshot saved or algo así. So I think that's it. And so I text my brothers. I'm like, yeah, ahora ya se fue. And so my oldest brother calls me, and we're on the phone, and then it starts going again. And I told him, no, I was wrong. She's still there. And so I'm talking to him. So he was on the phone with us, and then that's when I'm finally like, me hace que ahora sí. And sure enough, a second later, the a nurse comes in. She says, yeah, she's gone. And that's how fast it was. She was ready. It was once they switched over, it wasn't even 5 minutes, and she was gone. And so I felt her face start getting colder, and you can tell she was out of there. She was no longer in that body. And so that's when my brother finally shows up, the one that they want to be there when it happened, but I'd already told him that it had, so he shows up, and at that point it's weird because I don't think any of us cried at that point. We were just there with her body for a long time, and we all commented on how it looked like she was still breathing, but she obviously wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And she just lost all the color in her face. And I still remember like todos estos días nomás me acuerdo that she ended up like this with her head to the left, and she was kind of sitting up a little bit. And that's when my cousin showed up, the one that was driving from Boise. She shows up and she hugs my younger brother, and then she goes right around my older brother and goes to hug me, and my brother like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Cesar, eres tú?" And he's like, "Yeah, who the hell did you think it was? Just like some weird bald guy standing here." He's like, "Well, I haven't seen you in forever. I didn't realize it was you." And so we had a good laugh about that. And so like later on, that's what she said. She's like, "I was about to lose it crying, but the thing with your brother where I didn't recognize him, like that kind of broke the tension, and like they laughed instead." And it's funny how like laughter and crying are so closely related, dude. Like estos días, because my mom was funny, man. Y estos días me estaba acordando mucho de cosas que decía o que hacía that I thought was funny, and I'll start laughing and I'll end up crying.
Mm.
Like I start laughing and laughing so hard, and then I next thing I don't even know where it switches. Like I'm like, am I still laughing or am I crying right now? But the guy from the funeral home shows up. We filled stuff out with him, and we come home. Um, I end up spending like another hour outside the hospital talking to my cousin. She's a cousin. I mean, she's older than me, like significantly, like I don't know, maybe 10 years older than me, maybe more, maybe less. Pero so we've never been like close,
Mm-hmm.
but I know how much my mom meant to her. We ended up talking for like an hour outside the hospital, and to where my brother had gotten home, and he's like he hadn't come home since he got off the airplane. So he's like, ¿Dónde estás? I was like, oh, I'm still up here. I'm like I'm pretty sure the back door in the garage is unlocked, so you can get in the house that way. Because I think that's why he was like, he was here and he didn't have a house key. And so I'm like, he's like, okay. And so I come home and he's already in bed, and I can hear he's crying. I just go to bed. And you just don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
And you don't feel anything. Like I didn't cry that night. And Like on the way home, I saw a ton of missed calls from like Oscar, Lily, Brenda, everybody. And I started calling people back because I'm like, I don't want them to think that I'm like, que ando suicida o algo. I just didn't answer because we were busy.
Yeah,
But I
no.
just call them and it's super late and every single one of them answered. And like Lily was bawling and I'm like, I told her something funny, something kind of dark humor. And that's when I realized she was crying. She's like, stop, don't say shit like that. And I'm like, are you fucking crying? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, won't cry. And so that was that, man. I mean, she went from being an independent person to a month, 6 weeks later, not existing anymore. Yeah.
Like that.
And it was just really, really hard, you know. Luego, pues mi prima ese día, she ended up just staying the weekend or through Sunday. The next day we went clothes shopping. My brother was texting me and he's like, "We'll be there on Tuesday."
Yeah.
And I had already planned to go shopping. Yeah, le había dicho a mi ex that I was gonna pick up my girls. We were gonna go get clothes for the funeral
Hmm.
and for my mom. And we were just gonna get black clothes because me acababa de decir Eileen, my oldest daughter, when I was telling her about what's happening, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you guys have been to a funeral, huh? You went to like some old lady's funeral. Someone they didn't really know, but it was like my ex's family or something." And my daughter was like, "Oh yeah, y esta y Chuchu was wearing like a bright dress, and everybody else was in black." She's like, "She really stood out," and I'm like, "Yeah." It's like we'll get some black clothes before we bury my mom. But then my brother's like, the girls said his girls are like her favorite color was purple. Let's get purple. And I'm like, that's a good idea. And so that's what we did. And my cousin paid for Eileen's dress. She paid for my mom's outfit. She took us to eat. It was weird because it's low key kind of fun. Like we just spent the day out and about, but the whole time you got this undercurrent of sadness. Y también toda la semana que estuvo mi otro hermano, they were staying in a hotel. Like the day after the burial, we went and swam in the pool at the hotel with them and stuff. It's like these are people I care about that I haven't seen in years, so we took advantage. Like we were going to dinner and stuff. So you're having these fun, memorable times, but the whole time you're just like, what the fuck, falta algo. And that's where I'm at right now. It's like falta algo. Like she should be in the next room. I should be able to hear the TV on right now. She'd be watching fucking like Jimmy Kimmel or something right now.
Oh my God.
But it's not, and everybody kept asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm okay this week. Let's see what happens next week when I come home from work and nobody's there anymore." Because last week the house was full.
Yeah, I remember you. I texted you and you're like, yeah, I'm okay right now. Like,
And so yeah, here we are. Now it's just remembering her, remembering a lot of the stuff she said and did, and how many people have reached out to tell me that they were inspired by her in some way, that she helped them in some way. People that can't believe what happened. I mean, even just as simple as like one of the guys we both used to work with, he's like just said, "Yeah, your mom always made me laugh all the time, and she had a cool sense of humor." Just shit like that.
mm-hmm,
It's like my cousin, esa, la que vino de allá de Boise.
mm-hmm.
She's like an attorney and shit.
An attorney?
And so she told my mom cuando se despidió de ella, she was like, o sea, yo pienso que no sería la mujer que soy ahora si no hubiera sido por ti.
Um,
Nomás te quiero dar las gracias por todo lo que hiciste por mí. And before she called her, she sent me some messages too that I thought were really nice. She said, "All I can tell you is that your mom was there for me at a time when no one understood me, and it was a great solace to be able to talk to her. She let me be me while offering guidance, and not a lot of people have done that for me in my life." And that's what everybody's like all her coworkers that have reached out and different people that talk to us at the funeral and stuff. That's the constant because she was not a judging person. She helped everybody. She listened to you, never judged you. Cada quien sus pedos. But she also wouldn't lie to you. People would come to her with their problems. She would tell them the truth and it would make them uncomfortable, but it was never a lie.
Yeah.
She was one of the most honest people that anybody's ever known. And like I kind of try to always strive to do that. Like las verdades incomodan un chingo a veces. But why are you going to beat around the bush?
Yeah.
But it's just really nice to hear all that good stuff. And then like one of her coworkers was telling me, she's like, perdón que te estoy mandando mensajes, like, pero es que no puedo creer que ya no está. Like work has just been super quiet all these days. Nobody's talking. Everybody's just quiet the whole time. I'm like, and that place needs some fucking grief counseling, you know? But I've had a lot of her coworkers message me and they're all like very apologetic. And I'm like, and then at the end, they're always like, si necesitas algo, aunque sea alguien con quien hablar, let me know. And I say, you guys too, because you guys seem just as fucked up about this. You guys seem more fucked up about it than me. I was like, no estén con que perdón que te mandamos. Like, text me, call me, whatever you need. Like, I'm around too. Like, it's affecting people that I didn't even know, you know? So,
Yeah.
and so we're left with the bill. So we have the GoFundMe right now. So I hope, I mean, it's looking like we're going to make it, at least for the funeral costs. The hospital bills are los quiero pagar so that they don't end up putting a lien on the house or anything because this is her house until we get it switched over. But that might be another while. Um, but the funeral costs, yeah, we have 30 days to pay it. So it's like that stuff is the stuff that like that's the stuff that we have like a timer on. Um,
Crazy.
but it's getting big and it's really it feels good to see the people that are donating. There's one guy in there that donated a huge amount. And I remember he went to college with my oldest brother and he's always been kind of rich. Like I remember we were poor enough to where like people would notice, I think. And he would send us like used clothes that was still good. Like a lot of Abercrombie and Fitch shirts back in the day. Like all that shit was expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that guy, like, obviously he's well off. Like, I don't know, people are donating and it feels good. It feels good to know that they're there, but it sucks asking. O sea, se siente uno como medio limosnero. But But it's like, God damn, es que fue un golpe bien así bien de repente, you know?
You know, and me imagino que es costoso.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets up there pretty quick.
It's like, vives y te cuesta y te mueres y te cuesta. O
Y
sea,
cuesta todavía. Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And she had barely set up her retirement.
Uh,
She'd just started getting her social security payment and y había hecho planes. And the funny thing is she would always say, ya no hay que hacer planes porque siempre que hacemos planes no nos salen.
mhm.
And this was like the ultimate of that happening because she made the plan. Apenas este sábado antes de que se enfermara, she was telling my daughter, voy a trabajar hasta los 70 otros 4 años, luego dejo de trabajar and I'll get my full social security stuff. And my daughter's like, no, no digas eso, mami. She's like, ¿por qué no? ¿No quieres que esté viejilla? She's like, no, no. And but she had these plans, like 4 more years of working. This year she couldn't make over like 23,000. She's like, en el verano, para que no lleves a las niñas a cuidar, I'll stay home the weeks that you have them. She's like, and that way I won't go over, and that way tú te ahorras también. And like July, we were all planning to be together. Like my brothers both were coming because we've seen both of them, but it's been like nine, almost 10 years since all four of us had been together. Like it was always like just three of us, sometimes uno a veces el otro. And so
Ujú.
my mom was like looking forward to that. Y pues
Ah.
ya no llegó. And it's
¿Cuántos,
like
cuántos años dices que tenía tu mamá?
66.
Oh my gosh.
She died on April 26th at 10:27. And her dad died on April 26th, 1998 at about 10:30 at night.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
That is super weird.
Um,
Oh my gosh.
so I don't know. Any questions?
I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to talk about it. I don't know. Me da cosita. I don't like to talk about that stuff.
You're one of those people?
Yeah. Well, not, I don't know if those, I guess like you just never really think about the things that can or, that can happen.
Hmm.
Because ahorita que dices que your mom was 66, my dad is 64. And it's like he looks just fine and he acts just fine, but de un día para el otro, things can change. But
Yeah.
you don't know?
And obviously the older you get, the more like the more it might happen, the more possible I guess it is to happen that something can happen. But
Mm.
honestly, even you and me,
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
like just because we're not old like that doesn't mean that,
Yeah.
tomorrow something might happen
Hmm.
health wise or luck wise that, that's it.
Yeah, I know. And like you mentioned earlier, like, your daughter didn't want to see your mom like that. And so, and then, bueno, tu sobrina no la quería ver tampoco así. I don't know, y me pongo a pensar, because I think, my grandpa passed away last year.
Yeah, I remember. You were pretty tore
And
up about that.
yeah, and like I wish I could have, I wish I could have seen him, I guess. Um, but por algo pasan las cosas, and I didn't get to see him. But yeah, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have had that opportunity to
Yeah.
see him, even though no sé, a lo mejor estuvo bien, no sé.
You were there when Marie had the seizure at Center Partners, no?
Who?
Marie, she remember the girl she had a seizure, we all thought she died? Do you
Mar-
remember that or not?
Who's Marie?
You probably don't remember the name, but you have to remember this. If you were there, you would remember it. She didn't tell anyone she was epileptic. She had a seizure. We all thought we didn't know what was going on. I remember she bit her tongue and blood starts coming out of her mouth. And Brian grabs me by the shoulders and he's like, she's fucking dead, man. And
I don't
so
remember.
they took her in the ambulance. They're like, she's fine.
Oh, was she like an older lady?
No, she was young. She was younger. She was like 19, 20 at the time.
No, I don't remember her.
He, that night, it's funny because at that point I was living here at home still. Um, but when I came through the door and as soon as I saw my mom, I started crying. And she's like, okay, like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I thought I saw someone die today. And it affected me like that. And then this time I did see someone die. I held someone while they died. And instead of breaking me up, like it felt correct. It felt right. It felt like I needed to be there with her, like till the very end.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I was there for her and with her because
Hmm.
she was always there for me and with me. And that's what makes it hard for me, man. It wasn't just my mom. Like that was my friend, man. Like we did everything together. Fuimos a ver, well, this poster, the Molotov,
I
that,
was gonna ask you about that earlier.
that she went to that show with us, with me and
No
Bruce.
way.
Yeah, she had a blast. También fue conmigo a ver a Café Tacuba a couple years ago.
No way. That's awesome. That's cool.
And like,
Estaba Molotov.
yeah, when we did a whole playlist of like just cool songs that she liked. We started out with like more heartfelt stuff, and we're like, no, we have to include some unas de Molotov y unas de Control Machete y así de Café Tacuba todo. And
Hmm.
we listened to that at the burial, and we did do no service because she didn't want a service. Were only going to do the burial, and it was just going to be us. But at the last moment, we're like, you know what? So many people that visited her, so many people that are reaching out, like we kind of owe it to them too. So we were
Yeah.
with her from 12 to 1, and then we just told everybody show up at 1. Ya fue cuando llegó la gente. A lot of people spoke on the mic, said some words, and then that's when they lowered her. Mi hija, la más chiquita, she was bien enfadoso todo el rato que let's go home, let's go. I'm like, empieza a caminar. It's just like, just keep going down the road. You'll see the house. And she saw we put some stuff in with her. Igual, my older daughter didn't want to look, but my younger one, she cut some flowers from my mom's garden here and she put them in there for her. So she saw my mom's dead body. And
Mhm.
so she knew she was in there and she knew she was dead, but no empezó a comprender hasta que empezaron a bajar la caja. And she started asking why. And I was like, porque ya, mija, ya no la vamos a volver a ver. And that's when you could tell she started getting really sad. And then Sunday, she was gonna go ask my mom to make her some popcorn, and then she remembered she's not there anymore. And she asked me, she's like, Papa, you miss Mama dead? And I was like, sí, mija, yo extraño ya. Y le digo, ¿y tú también? Dice, yeah, she made me popcorn. Dice, and tiny oranges, porque siempre le daba mandarina. Y I'm like,
Oh,
ya, mija, ya no, ya se acabó todo eso, mija. Pero yo te puedo hacer tus cosas, pero no van a estar igual como te las hacía ella.
yeah.
And then today, when I went to pick them up, she was crying. She didn't want to come with me. And I'm like, ¿por qué no quieres ir conmigo si siempre te quieres ir conmigo? And she's like, I don't want to go home. I'm like, oh, we're not going to go home. We're just going to go eat and like have fun.
Mhm.
Eh, Y ya fue cuando me cayó el 20 porque lloraba, pero no como capricho, lloraba con tristeza y se me recargaba. Y
Yeah.
le dije, ¿estás llorando porque no está mamá en la casa? And she just nodded her head. And I'm like, hasta ahorita le está cayendo la realidad a la chiquita. And she's only 3 years old.
Oh. Oh my
So
God, she's the same age as my daughter.
yeah, yeah, we have the daughters. I mean, and so I don't know. Like I just keep telling my older daughter, I'm like, a ti no, you have the good memories. Nunca se te olviden. Like my younger one's gonna forget,
Yeah.
but I'm like, pero tú no es que se te olvide. And like we did the whole music at the burial too, and I didn't want to do it,
Yeah.
but my brother and his wife were like, no, you have to. And I'm like, so finally, I was like, yeah, my mom really liked watching us play together, so I'll do it. Y ya, que no, pues, ¿quién va a cantar la del hijo desobediente? Because that was her favorite corrido. Le digo, no, yo la canto. Dice, but we'll have to do that one first because I don't know if I'm going to make it through. And luckily, I was able to make it through that one, but I didn't play every song just because I was like, it's hard. Pero quería hacer eso porque she did love watching us play. She would go to the shows and stuff with us. So I don't know. There's some sense of closure, but it was too goddamn fast, man. Like she should still be here right now.
Yeah. Me está haciendo llorar, Rodrigo.
Are you crying? Oh,
Yes.
I thought you were yawning. You know how like when you yawn and your eyes water?
No, I am. It's sad. I don't know. Just
And that's why I said like the podcast episode that came out, like I just wanted to do lighthearted because I wanted to see if I could get back to it because I want to get back to everything because I don't want to just be at home. I want to keep busy.
yeah,
And so
we.
that's why we didn't really like have a guest or anything. It was just like Oscar and Maddie, like the regulars. And we're
Hmm.
just talking, it's just kind of bullshit. And it was fun and it came out like I've already gotten feedback from one of our 7 listeners that she was like, yeah, that was really funny. You guys, that was a really funny comeback. And I'm like, okay, so that means I'm good. I can do this stuff again. But I did want to tell the story in its entirety. And but I thought about doing something like me by myself, but then I'm like, I'm gonna ask Itzel because it's always better to like bounce it off of someone and tell it to someone.
Yeah.
And like I said, like a Oscar, pues él ya se la sabía toda. He went and visited her while she was in the hospital and stuff, and like and
Um,
Maddie pretty much knew all this everything too. So I'm like, you didn't really know any of it, so I'm like, worked out. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and start wrapping up. I don't even know how long we've been going, but we'll do valuable life lessons.
I,
I don't have a button. I'll put it in maybe later, maybe not. I don't know. But valuable life lessons. What's your valuable life lesson that you learned on the show today? It said,
Pues que, ay, pues no sé, I guess just como que planear tu funeral, ¿no es cierto?
think ahead.
Think ahead porque no sabes cuánto te va a
Porque
costar.
está cabrón.
Porque está caro morir y está caro vivir.
Yeah, I mean, we did like the most, like the least expensive of everything, and it's still like, fuck. No.
No, but in realidad it's expensive. But I don't know, just surround yourself with people, like, and be happy with what you have and those around you. No a todo mundo le vas a caer bien y si no, está bien.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't get to meet your mom, but from what you tell me, she seems like she was an amazing person. And I'm sure you got the sense of humor from her. So,
yeah, yeah. Look, todos se fijaron en who was it? Someone at the burial when they saw afterwards. Mi prima hizo un convivio aquí at the Senior Citizen Center here in Roberts. So a
mm,
bunch of people were there. Hicieron comida y todo. And someone looked at my oldest brother and they're like, they said something de que se ve así muy serio, que si era muy serio él. And I'm like, no, it's like he's funny. He's probably the funniest one. Pero pues nadie lo conoce porque pues siempre ha sido así muy estudioso y in his jobs he's always been in charge of stuff and I'm like, pero si lo llegan a conocer como no, he's got the same sense of humor. We're all pretty twisted. My mom was pretty twisted in her sense of humor. Like that, de ahí sacamos todos este sentido del humor, sometimes kind of dark, which like I said, I think is helping me cope with this a lot. Fueron like Lily, Brenda, Oscar, Angelica, they were all there at the thing and they were about to leave. And when they were about to leave, les dije, oh, no, espérense, van a partir el pastel. And they were like, why are you like, don't fucking make us laugh right now. Like, that's fucked up. Like, why are you like this? And I'm like, my mom would have laughed at that. So,
yeah,
so my valuable life lesson is just that, like, don't take anyone or anything for granted ever because you don't know when it's going to end.
true.
And fortunately, I don't feel like I took her for granted. I just, I just assumed it was going to be a long time before this happened.
Yeah,
But, guess that's it. I mean, it's also not surprising. I mean, life was never fair to my mom, pero ella siempre decía mal tiempo, buena cara. So that's what I'm trying to do, trying to move on without ever forgetting her because she was everything.
I'm sure. Uh,
Yeah. Before you cry too much, I guess we'll stop the recording.
why are you making me cry?
Cry. Llora, Itzel. It's good for the views.
Oh my God. You should be crying. I'm over here crying.
I've cried a lot. I'm it's like at this point it's hard to cry now. But no llores. Just this weekend, habla con tu mamá. Tell her you love her.
I don't talk to my mom that often.
Well, this is your sign.
Why are you making me cry?
This is your sign, dude. You can't take people for granted.
I guess, yeah.
Y de todo corazón, happy Mother's Day to you too. I mean, you're a mom.
I am my mom.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I
But
cried a little bit too much, but
yeah, we'll be fine. Just
we,
fucking sucks, you know?
yeah, it sucks. I know. I've been telling everyone, well, I mean, obviously, yeah, and everyone and anyone who I talk to, I'm like, oh my gosh, my friend Rodrigo's mom passed away, and oh my God, like, I mean, not that they know you, but the guy that I'm talking to, like, le he hablado de ti poquito, and I'm like, oh my gosh, his mom passed away, and like, oh my God, I feel so sad, and empezamos a hablar y así, pero it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Te digo, es lo que me he fijado yo, like it's these ripple effects. Like my mom never would have imagined that some lady in California would be talking about her death, you know?
Some lady.
It's just you never know how many people you affected in your life
Yeah.
until it's over. And so best we can do is just try to affect people in a positive way
Mhm.
and move forth. But yeah, we'll end it with that, Itzel.